And hello, welcome to Sound Mind, Sound Body. I'm Izzy Naud. I'm a health and well-being coach in the electronic music industry, and I've been hosting these sessions since year 2023. And since spring 2024, I've been hosting guests. And this session, I have Ryan Oshognesse from Medtronica, who's my guest. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, y'all. Izzy, such a pleasure to be on here. This is very exciting.
And this is a first because the previous guests, they would be health and well-being coaches or therapists, and Ryan is not a professional in health,
None of those.
none of this, but you are a mental health advocate and founder of Medtronica, a nonprofit serving the electronic music community. Rather than approaching wellness from a clinical perspective, Ryan's work is rooted in lived experience, cultural understanding, and community-driven solutions. Medtronica focuses on reducing financial and systemic barriers, supporting mental well-being, and creating pathways for people to thrive, using music and connection as entry points for real-world impact. Thank you so much for your work, Ryan. I've been following you for since the middle of last year, and you've been posting these really supporting stories and reels about mental health in the industry. So let's start with your personal story. What's your experience in the electronic music scene?
Oh man, where do I start with that? Um, I'll I'll give some context. I think it's always helpful. I'm somewhat what people would call newer to the scene, but I've been a fan and I've been listening to music since I was like kind of a kid. I was on a swim team when I was younger, and we had a lot of international swimmers on our team. And one of them, they were much older than me as well. Um, One of them came over and was from Bulgaria, and we were on a trip together, and we jumped the turnstiles in Italy. I got sponsored as pretty good at a swimmer at this point, and the cops pulled us over, and they were like, "We need to see your IDs." I was like 13 years old, and I gave them my ID, and my buddy Ray, who was probably like in his early 20s, he's like, "Oh, I don't have my ID." And they're like, "Okay, what's your name?" So he's like, "John Digweed." And I look at Ray, and I have no idea who John Digweed is. And I'm like, "That's not your name." And I didn't say anything. And that kind of like piqued my interest. And he's like, "No, go look it up." So it kind of piqued my interest into electronic music. But then I kind of put it on the shelf for a multitude of reasons. And I got into trance. And I guess like my first event was Paul Van Dyke when I was 18. I was living in Minnesota. I've kind of lived all over the United States, just traveled around. And I guess that's kind of like my exposure to electronic music early on. And then I got into like much more EDM through university. And I was always kind of a fan, but I never really started looking into it and like studying it and enjoying it until I moved back to New York. So I used to live in New York for a bunch of years throughout like from like 2013 all the way to 2019, and I was in and out, went to California for a little while. And I had never really gone out to like clubs. I was raised in like a very Christian household, so I wasn't allowed to associate with those people who went out to clubs. They did bad things or like devil's music type of deal, which is
Oh
kind
my
of
God.
wild. I would think I'll never forget this. I went out to like a party at House of Yes. So for those of you who are familiar with New York or not, it's like it's a very open-minded place, right? Very queer friendly, like very much when you think of like electronic music at its core and like accepting everybody, that's House of Yes. And I just remember walking in there and being like, wow, this is like the complete opposite of how I was kind of raised. And like I should be scared of going to these places. But when I went to started going to these parties. I was like in my late 20s, and everyone was just so accepting and so inviting and so open-minded. And I had never really experienced community like that before, and just like, wow, everyone's just so positive. There's a ton of reasons why that's going on at these parties, but in general, these people are like very open-minded and very friendly and very welcoming. So I kind of kept exploring and kept going out and meeting people and exploring the music, but it really wasn't until later, probably like 3 years or 4 years later, where I went through a pretty difficult time in my life and went through a breakup, and all of these things from like my childhood came up, all these things from like stuff that I hadn't dealt with, and it just all kind of was bubbling up, and there was not much I could do about it. It was like uh, my world had felt like it had been taken out from under me. And the thing that was there for me the whole time, I had, support. My parents helped me, my sibling helped me. I moved in with them, and I had friends that were supporting me, but like they can't be there all the time for you. And I started noticing that I was always listening to electronic music, but it got me out of like these deep, dark holes where I felt like I couldn't climb out of. So I have this relationship to the music and like this community and like so many of these positive experiences that I had. And then in these like times of despair, it it was the thing that like, okay, I can put this music on and it's going to take my mind off maybe like how I'm feeling, but I'm starting to feel better. Like I feel positive. Like there's like hope in this. And then it got me thinking, it's like, well, what is it to this music? Like I put on other music and like I don't feel this way. But I put on this music and something shifts in my energy and my brain. I didn't know what it was. So I was like, okay, let me start asking questions about like why this is happening. And that's kind of led me down the rabbit hole to where I am now with creating Medtronica. So my relationship to the music is I was going out to clubs, indulging in all parts of the electronic music club scene, and then it kind of came back around, and it's been this kind of therapeutic thing for me now. So I still keep one foot in both camps where I still love to go out and enjoy those parts of the music and the community. And there's so many positive things that come from the community aspect of this music. But then I just started experimenting on myself as a guinea pig with how this music interacts with me, my emotional states, my brain, through meditation and so many other things. And I'm probably getting way ahead of myself, and I have long-winded answer to this question. If you don't know already, I like to talk, so this is where we're at.
So is it listening to the music? Is it also like dancing and the community when you were going
Totally.
out?
Totally, yeah. I think for me, like if we want to get super technical, what I started to do is I started to take loops of tracks that I would hear, very specific parts like 2 bar, 4 bar, 8 bar, 16 bar, depending upon if it's an extended mix that was like 14 minutes long. Some records are that long. And I would take these loops and I would just listen to them. And I was like, okay, how is this impacting me? Because if you can't tell, I have severe ADHD, um, and I started to notice like how it helped me focus. Like some loops helped me focus, and then there were some loops that just really calmed me down. There were some that like made me angry. There were some that made me happy. There were some that brought me to tears. And then I started experimenting that with meditation. So I would do some breath work and put a blindfold on and take those same loops and just see what would come up for me. And I was really surprised that like what brought out emotions, what brought out revelations, how it helped me process certain things. And I was like, oh wow, this is like super, super interesting on on that level. And then there's also the dancing part where I started noticing when I was out dancing, I would go solo to some events. Some people are like, oh, I don't like to go solo. I like, going with a friend. I would go out solo and just dance and be the person by myself on the dance floor. And just for therapeutic purposes, I started noticing, wow, I am I'm problem solving a lot of things while listening to music and dancing. So then I started looking into like bilateral movements and was talking with my therapist about it, and he was like, oh yeah, bilateral movements and music activate both parts of the brain. So I'm like, oh my god, this is so interesting. So then I, down another rabbit hole we go. And all of this to say, at the center and the core of it is this music that's made with synthesizers, that's made using synthesis, that's made using circuitry, that's made using electricity, and all of it impacts every individual differently, I'm learning, but impacts me in ways that I couldn't have ever imagined. So I'm like, well, I can't be the only one that's like this. There's got to be other people. And just started sharing what I'm learning and what I'm researching. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy with the internet, some, research skills, ChatGPT, and just trying to connect dots and using myself as a kind of a guinea pig to explore here and just sharing from that kind of lens because it's helped me a ton.
For sure. And music has been demonstrated to be healing because of the frequencies. And because we are made of over 70% of water in
Hmm.
our bodies, then we vibrate with sound. So sound is healing. And many artists and electronic music artists also have started creating some apps where they have sound. For example, Tom Middleton, he has an app for sleeping where
Mm.
he produces some sound sequences that help people fall asleep, for example.
It's amazing. I mean, that's why I bought like a mini synthesizer to help with going to sleep. I was like, maybe I can make some sounds that allow me to improve my sleep quality a little bit better. It's the more I dig, the more I learn that I don't know things, and the more I learn that there's so much more to learn. It's really interesting.
Yes, and you can connect with many artists in the scene who are exploring with healing sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I'll connect you. Let's go on
Thank you.
to the following questions. So often mental health conversations in our scene focus on artists. Why is it important to widen the lens? And what are some ways that fans, dancers, and promoters are impacted too?
Totally. Um, yeah, I don't know. I have my own theories on like why that is. I think because we, I think it's kind of always been this way because I look back to dance music and, we've always put artists or I don't want to say DJs, but we'll say artists or musicians on pedestals for like, oh my God, they're these like great things. And I think there's been a part of that that's like worshipped um, artists, DJs, musicians. But it's important to widen the lens because all of us struggle. We're all human. We all go through daily challenges. The artists, the DJs, they're still human beings at the end of the day. So just to put the focus on them, I think is like people know about them more. So it's like it garners more attention and more media. But from my standpoint, is like, sure, they're humans as well. They struggle probably with the same things that I struggle with, or you struggle with, or everybody else. So it's not just to focus on them. We all have these daily struggles. And I think because some of these artists are put on pedestals, they get more of the attention. And that's just as a society we do that. I'm not saying it's one individual that does that or it's anybody's fault. But the dancers are important. The fans, that's really who make this music. It's like if you don't have people to come and dance, you don't have this community. So like we all are together. Like we have to widen the lens to focus on us because we're all one. We're all, it's kind of cheesy to say all connected, but we're all in this as one kind of communal unit to go through these experiences and share our struggles. So the people who put on these events, the promoters, they're exhausted too. I started working with promoters because I want to do events one day, and it's a grueling work. Everyone shows up tired. Everyone shows up when, they have stuff going on, when there's struggles. It's not just the DJs or the artists who have to perform. People go out to dance because they got shit going on in their life that's really hard, and they come to the dance floor to sweat it out because it's therapy for a lot of people. I mean, it is for me, for sure. And, it's also therapy for the DJs because they get to enjoy what they're doing and playing, I'm sure. Music is therapy, just, focusing on what you're doing. It takes you out of yourself. So we have to widen the lens as to, focusing on the groups of people that make this scene music what it is rather than just focusing on the one subset of individuals who play the music. They're a vessel. At the end of the day, they're channeling whatever higher energy, whether you believe in that or not, but they're a vessel for whatever is coming through them, and we collectively all get to experience that, beauty through them. But we gotta focus more on us. It's us, it's we, it's not them, it's not anybody else. We all struggle. We all share the human experience. So that's kind of where Medtronica and where I stand on it.
Right, and I totally agree with you. I serve on one side artists, and I also serve music professionals. Myself, my experience was as an artist manager. I got a burnout. I wasn't an artist, but I still had the stress and the jet lag and the pressure and so everyone at all levels can be impacted, not only the artists, for sure.
Totally. And I think, you know, because of media, and it's kind of always been this way, just media. Before it was on the TV, now it's on our phone. Before it was in the newspaper. But we've always seen artists, DJs struggle with the pressure. But you and I and everyone on this call has struggled with pressure before. I'm sure we've all been there where, it's been job related or relationship related, and we've had to show up still. And we've had pressure in our lives. So, you know, I think it gets more attention because we give it more attention where like yes they're going from gig to gig and burnout and stress and getting on the plane, but what about the person, the guy, girl, individual that's working three jobs to support a family and has lost income, is losing their house? Those are all still burnouts, those are all still massive stresses, those are all still real. So no one struggle is more important than the other. It's, the individual struggle, and they all deserve the same attention. Uh, and they're all hard. They're all hard. So we have to recognize that it's not just the artists who need to be served. They're doing art, it's amazing, but it's also the dancers, may lose their job. The promoters may lose their job. And that's kind of where Medtronica wants to be able to step in is as a nonprofit, our goal is to be able not just to support artists. That's great. We want to support the arts, but we want to support human beings. Because if you lose any one of these parts in the ecosystem that is electronic music, you don't have this community in the group. If you lose the promoters, you lose a lot of aspects. If you lose the DJs, you lose a lot of aspects. If you lose the dancers, you basically lose everything in this community. So we want to focus on being able to support all the aspects what make this community great and this group of people great. Because if you lose any one part, it's just like nature. The whole thing falls out of whack and out of balance.
For sure. And So Medtronica approaches well-being from a community first, non-clinical perspective. Can you share how this model works and why it matters?
Totally. And like I share from my own experiences, and everything I do is from my own experiences and seeing if it will work for other people. Because I have the theory where it's like if it works for me, maybe it works for some other people. And if this is interesting to me, maybe it's interesting for other people because I can't be the only one out there that thinks like this, or I hope I'm not. So I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a clinician, none of that. But I know that when people come together, great things can happen, magic can happen. My life was in a very different place. I did a rant on this the other day. My life was in a completely different place, not in a good place, 3 years ago. I didn't think I was going to be here, type of 3 years ago. 2 months ago, I had dinner with Victor Calderone and Anthony Cardinale, who's a vision, and they're like, I had to have a pinch me moment, right? I did not think I would be there. And that all has happened because of the electronic music scene and me putting myself out there and me connecting with people like you, Izzy, and me having conversations and trying to do good in this community. I've been able to help other people, and other people have been able to help me. And that positive cycle has reinforced things, and it's taken my life to where it is right now, which is kind of crazy. And it's not for lack of effort. God knows I put in a lot of effort. But when people come together around a common theme, which is the music here, and we're truly there for each other, we can support one another and amazing things happen. Like I am a testament to that. And I know that if I'm given this opportunity, I would like to bring other people along for the ride with me and help them get opportunities. Um, and I, and I really, we have to look at, and this kind of goes back to the other point I wanted to say this before. We have to look at this. I'm looking at this approach from if we create an incubator, if we create situations where people can come and they can be supported by other people, by groups. You go meet somebody else and you're like, oh, cool, I know this person. Let me connect you with them. And then they're able to do this or get another job or get a gig or like, maybe they need a place to stay because they lost their apartment. Well, that just impacted their life in a positive way. What happens? Well, if somebody helps you out because you've fallen on hard times and they help you pay your rent, okay, you could breathe for a second. That's happened to me. I had to move back in with my parents because I was destitute. I had to leave my apartment with the person I was living with, my ex-girlfriend, and I had to go somewhere. I didn't have anywhere to go. Thankfully, I had friends and, parents still around where I could do that. And that gave me a moment to breathe and get myself out of a terrible mindset. So then I could think clearer, I could think better, and I could make wiser choices and better decisions, which will then impact my life in the long run for better, for good. And if you don't have those resources, you can spiral and things can get really dark really quick. We had a friend and a community member in Montreal last year take their life because they fell on really hard times. And that really shocked me as to because I've been in situations where I've had those thoughts, but to have it happen like that close to home, and I'd met this person a couple of times, and to see how it impacted my friends in that community in Montreal was like, oh wow, we need to really do something about this. What if we could have paid their rent? What if somebody could have, and at the end of the day, you can't stop somebody from doing what they're going to do. You can't. As much as we want to be like, oh, if I did this, if I, no, no, no. If somebody's going to do something, they're going to do it, and there's nothing you could do about it. That's the unfortunate reality. But maybe if there were resources and they knew about it and they had the ability to ask for help, right? Because that's where you're going to come from. If you can get over the shame of asking for help, someone's going to help you. I firmly believe that. But if
Right.
you're able to come out of that place because somebody's, gives you a couch to stay on, pays your rent, is there for you in those times, you can improve your life and you can get out of these dire situations. So that's really how I approach this, is like, I want to incubate communities. I am incubating community. I want to have this be a place where people know it's safe and they can come, and that, we are able to support them to get them to a place. It's not a crutch. We are not going to bankroll people for the rest of their lives. I'm not independently wealthy yet. And I can't afford to do that. The company can't afford to do that. I'm putting my own money into this to begin with, to start it. But I want it to be a place where people can be supported, and we can support people who are in those situations who need it. Not just artists, not just DJs, but the community, because I've seen the results of what can happen if those things not necessarily aren't in place, but I want to at least give the offering and the opportunity to people to say, hey, I need this, and it's going to help me get to a place where I can make better decisions, or I can breathe. Because when you don't have oxygen to your brain, you can't make the right decisions. You're panicking. And
Totally.
mainly, we also want to focus on like the communities that really birthed this music, this community, this culture, which is the LGBTQ plus, queer, trans, black, brown, underserved minority communities. We have to acknowledge that those communities are more likely to be affected. Their mental health is more likely to be affected than other communities. And they birthed this music. They birthed, I'm not going to argue Germany or Detroit. I'm not here to argue that. But what I am here to argue is that they created the safe places for minority communities, LGBTQ plus communities, gay, trans, and black communities to go when they were being targeted, when they were being killed, when things were not safe. And I'm talking specifically about like 70s, 80s, 90s for these communities. And we want to make sure that we're giving back to them. We want to make sure that Medtronica is able to serve them as well, because of the gift that they have given us of this community, of this acceptance, of this positivity, of this welcoming space that I experience and so many of us experience when we go to an event or to a club. You know, that is something I want to acknowledge and say, it is a main focus of Medtronic, because those communities are more affected than some others.
Thank you. Yes. And for for those who feel disconnected or unsupported right now, what's one small or meaningful way they to reconnect with community?
Yeah, this is a really big a good one for me. I have to practice this myself on a daily basis. I work by myself. I work from home. I live alone. My girlfriend lives in a different country, so I don't have a companion here all the time. My friends, now they live in different countries. I got my buddies living in South Africa right now. My other friends live in Los Angeles. I'm in Florida, and if you know the geography of the United States, it's absolutely massive. My other friends are up in New York. Thankfully, I have, a couple of friends over here, but life changes. We're not always together with our community, with our friends, and I can feel disconnected quite a bit. Where it's like, man, I'm just by myself. You get in your own head, you get in your own mind. You're human. It's a practice to get out of that, constantly pulling yourself out of your own head and your own way. And really, I found that, the first step for me is to just reconnect with something that's going to bring me joy. So I got some turntables behind me over here. I'm not sure if you could see them. That's kind of like my step one. I put fail safes in practice, because I know myself, and I've gotten to know myself more over the years. If I don't put these fail safes in practice, things can get dark pretty quick. So I'm like, okay, I gotta put this over in here. I gotta, start over here, music, DJ, break out a synthesizer, or just start listening to music. And then that's going to lead me to the second thing, which is, okay, maybe I'm going to call a friend to hang out, because for me, there are times where I just want to commiserate. Oh, I'm by myself, I'm alone, I'm disconnected, this is how my life is, blah blah blah. And I can find myself just like wanting to live in that for a little bit rather than like pulling myself out of it and literally throwing myself into be like, you got to go outside for a walk, you got to go call a friend, you got to like just go be with somebody, just connect. And I did that the other day. I went to see some friends. I haven't seen this friend in 10 years. I've known them since I was 10 years old, and it just like life happened. And I walked in and like I was embraced and I embraced them, and it's like, wow, it really brings you back to be like, oh wow, this feels so good, because when you're alone for so long or all the time, or you spend so much time alone, you forget that. And I think when that's something that's so powerful about electronic music is like when you walk into an event, and each event's different, right? Festival versus like underground club. But when I go once a year, I go to Stereo. It's like the only place I really go out. When I walk in that place, and if you don't know about it, look it up. No phones, no alcohol, strictly like amazing music, strictly just like everything at the essence of club culture you can think about. I walk in that place, I almost cry every single time because it's just like freeing, and I see friends and it's embraced and it's just like beautiful. So when we walk into these settings, it's just such a reminder of like, oh wow, there's people here who care about me. Wow, I'm connected to this music. I'm connected to me again. And the same thing can happen when you listen to music or you play music. It gives you those moments where you're like, it can get you out. You can reconnect with who you are. You can reconnect with other people. And it can give you a sense of like, call it hope, but a sense of like, okay, I could put the next pearl on the string. I could do the next thing if it's tough, especially when you feel disconnected. Things can get really tough for a lot of people. So I would say step one, turn on some music is what I do. Step two, if you can, get yourself to like go outside or go meet up with a friend, because a lot of us struggle with asking for help. I do for sure. But if we can get over ourselves and we can like get our nervous system to a place of like safety and say like, okay, I'm gonna ask out, I'm gonna reach for help, okay, I'm gonna go meet up with this friend. It's always scarier than we think, and then we go do it and we're like, oh great, this is like fine, this is calm, yes, this feels good, and you can kind of swim in that a little bit more. And then it just makes it easier for doing it the next time you kind of exercise that muscle. So I would say those are kind of my levels of check-ins. I'm sure there's some psychological term to put to that, but again, I'm not a professional. Um, but also just go out and dance. Just go out and dance, even if it's in your house, but like give yourself a date. Take yourself on a date. Take yourself on a date alone, go out and dance, and just allow yourself to be open and reconnect and meet people. I think that's another great option.
Yes, totally. I know that when I haven't danced for a long time, my whole mood is affected.
Oh, my life is off. No, mandatory. It used to be mandatory going out once a week dancing. Now mandatory once a year go up to Stereo, and then mandatory once a week I have a dance party over here for myself with some music, and it's great.
Amazing. So, if we reimagine mental health support in the electronic music world, what could it look like in 5 years?
Oh man. I don't like to put anything on a timetable because we all know what can happen with plans. They change. I think there's a what we make plans and then God laughs, right? That's kind of the saying there. Um, I mean, I was thinking about this last night because I got some of these questions from you and I was looking over them. I think there needs to be like a systemic change. Is this going to happen in our lifetimes? Probably not. I would like to see there be more of a systemic change and reward and incentivized for companies and businesses that are doing good into the community and that are giving back. I would love to see that. And I think that's really where it starts at its core. Because I can say things like, I would love to see this, I would love to see that. But are they going to happen if incentives don't change? Probably not. But what I will say is, and I know this sounds like super grim and dark, I apologize. But what I will say is I would like to see more of what we're doing in the music. And that may sound egotistical, that's fine. But I want to be I'm trying to be the change I want to see. That's kind of the framework I'm operating from. And there's a lot of talk about, club scenes dying, people are struggling. This is difficult, that's difficult. And a lot of people say like, oh, the government needs to support us, and that's for sure. We need money for the arts. Like arts are the utmost, very important in my opinion. But we need to support each other, and I think we are supporting each other. And I think there are many people that do support each other. But seeing businesses that will create products or services that are reinvesting directly into the community, right? It's got to be, I would like to see that in a positive ecosystem that's reciprocating and putting money right back into it as it takes money out or creates products, right? That's why I'm creating this beverage, because the company needs to make money. The nonprofit needs to make money. So we're creating a product that we can then donate back money from the proceeds of that product directly into, like people were talking about, paying people's rent, helping artists with traveling. That's what we're doing this year. Donating to causes, being able to help people who are in times of need. I would like to see more of that. And we are seeing this, and I'm so grateful for it. We're starting to see more people talk about mental health in general, and we're starting to see the people who have platforms, be it the artists in this case, talk more about mental health. And I love that. A lot of times people will say, oh, less of a stigma around mental health. We're there. I think we're there. I think we're talking about it. We're having the conversation. It's on the table. The elephant is out from under the rug, and it's not that scary anymore. And I think that makes it a safer place for other people to say, like, you know what? If I'm an artist, this tour is super hard. I got to take a step back. I'm canceling this gig for my sanity. If it's, somebody who's not an artist, community member, you know what? I am taking this day for myself to just go out and dance, and allowing people, giving them the permission, allowing themselves to give themselves the permission to say, hey, I am going to need to do this for my mental health, and allowing people to ask for help. I think I would like to see continued movement towards safety, creating safety for all people within this community, safety for women, safety for the LGBT plus community, safety for men, safety for all walks to come and say like, hey, this shit's hard, but we got this. We're in it together, and having more places, safe places, that can facilitate, the human struggle.
Well, thank you for this. And what are the next activities for Medtronica?
Oh wow, which ones? I've got so many in the hopper. More interviews. So I started this off with interviewing artists. Why? Because I need to garner attention and garner awareness. Um, so trying to do more interviews, but not just interviews with artists, trying to do more interviews with community members, right? Like practice what I preach. I've got some cool interviews coming up where I did, well, one with our friend Michelle. So I've been sitting on that. This is part-time for me, so this is a passion project. I work two other jobs to kind of fund this thing, which is why I'm creating products that can scale. So I could work on this full time. We're also sponsoring two artists as well. I was living in Argentina last year for 4 months, and I met these incredibly talented individuals who are amazing, who have become like teachers and mentors to me in aspects of electronic music. But if you know anything about Argentina, it's like financially very difficult for those people. It's difficult for a lot of people around the world, but it really opened my eyes to like, I was like, why don't you guys tour? And that may sound very naive of me because I'm always the believer. It's like if I got to work 5 jobs to make my dreams come true in reality, like I will work 24 hours to whatever it is. That's just like how I operate. And I'm not saying it's healthy, but I want to try and do everything I can possible. And not everybody has the same opportunities. I'm very well aware of that. But they're like, no, it's like it's super difficult. And I was like, wow, this is really intense. So we're gonna sponsor both of them. I'm coming out of my own pocket to help them travel. We're gonna pay for their flights. We're in the process of they're getting gigs in either Europe or Colombia. So they're working on that, and we're going to come in. We're going to pay for the flights. They're going to document everything because we need proof of concept in the media. I'm a full believer in transparency. If people are going to donate to the cause that is Medtronica, which we do accept donations, you got to see where your money's going. And we got to have the PayPal receipts. We got to have, the ACH wires. I'm all about that because there's too many people that say they're going to do good in the name of whoever or whatever, and then they just end up ripping people off. That's not what I'm here. I want to be around this place a long time. But we're going to sponsor 2 artists to start. We are looking to do an event in New York. That's in the process of we're finding places. We've got the talent, and that's going to be a fundraiser for somebody local in New York. We've got some candidates there who will take any proceeds that we make from the event. We'll also have donations available there, and then we will document how we're going to help that individual. Again, doesn't have to be an artist. It can be anybody in the community. And then I'm in the process of formulating a beverage, like I talked about, where the proceeds of that beverage, once we start making a profit and then we have our expenses covered, those are going to go back into same things. Like I'm talking about we're going to pay for the artist. They're going to go into featured help, where we're going to help somebody in the community. And it doesn't have to be in the United States. Like we're doing these guys in Argentina. It can be someone else. So that's that's a lot. I know we have a lot going on. That is what we're doing. More content, more interviews, and more exploration of this beautiful music community and the people that make it amazing, not just the artists.
Well, thank you so much, and all the best for all of this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Izzy. You reached out like 6 or 7 months ago and like, this is very cool. Let's be friends. And I was like, yes, let's be friends. Um, so it's really been amazing, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and talk about, what it is that we're doing.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna stop the recording and we're gonna open for Q&A.